Next is Pam. Pam has a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology, Sociology, and a Master's of Education with a specialization in rehab services, and a registered social worker and certified, chartered professional in HR. With more than 30 years of experience in supporting individuals with disabilities and other employment barriers. Pam brings her extensive experience in designing and administrating human service programs to the role of President, Managing Director of Bean Human Services, Inc., here in Medicine Hat.
So welcome, everyone. Very excited to be here this morning with this great group of people, and especially welcoming our out-of-town guests, and thanks for driving to Medicine Hat to do this with us. And when I click this button, there we go. I was trying to, how do you sound young and say you've been in the business for almost 35 years? That's right. So the wonderful thing about getting to this age and stage of life is that I've been through lots of upturns and downturns in the economy, lots of different political systems, certainly a time when women were different in the workplace when millennials were not even thought of yet, and went through Y2K and all those things. So it's wonderful to be able to talk about this business and this profession from this perspective. So onboarding and orientation and ongoing engagement. And I want to say that one of the other things I'm really privileged to do in my work life, aside from being involved in employment, is I do some counseling through employee assistance programs, and up until quite recently also did some marriage counseling. So I can't help it, but these worlds collide for me sometimes, and so when I think about relationships, and relationships between employees and employers, and relationships between couples and families, it does crossover for me. So once in a while I might give you an example and you might think, what the heck is she talking about? But that's why I do that. So but I do want to start today by asking you what you came to learn about. And without taking too much time, I'm going to just go around the room. It's a small enough group. Just tell me who you are and how many people are in your organization and what you hope to learn today.
I'm Erin. I'm with RBC.
Yeah.
I can't tell you off the top of my head how many people are in my organization.
But in your team, the people that you would be working with?
So I'm not in an HR role right
Okay.
now, but I have a team. We were 8, and we've just added 3 more because we've changed our borders, so to speak, for our area.
Yeah.
So there are 11, 12 of us, including my manager.
Okay, and that's good. And the reason I want to know is it's quite different if you're talking about 200 employees or 12 employees. You know, and you might be a part of an organization that has thousands, but in your world, it's a smaller group.
I would say it's got to be 50 to 75 people because it'd be all of Medicine Hat plus my team that encompasses Southern Alberta that I work directly with on an ongoing basis.
Okay, that's good. And what are you hoping to learn today?
Very good question.
Okay, well, that's all right. But we're glad you're here. Carry on.
I'm Callie. I'm from the Women's Shelter. We have a staff of 40 to 50, depending on if you're counting casual. Mm-hmm. And we have about 200 volunteers. And I always include them in our staff because we rely on them quite heavily.
Sure. Yeah.
I guess I just want to see if we're on the right track with our orientation, that we seem to be doing okay, but there's always new things.
Great, thank you.
I'm Lauren. I'm from Jade Homes in Bow Island, and Tennille, who is in the hallway, I guess, is also part of our organization. So we have 3 companies together. So Jade Homes, which is a home builder, Hebert Cabinets, which is a custom cabinet shop, and then we have a plumbing, mechanical, electrical, HVAC company as well called Bolt. So I manage the HR function for that. So between the 3, we have 40 to 50 employees, depending on what we need for certain projects. And today, I'm also hoping to see if we're on the right track in building our HR function. And I'm learning a lot, and I like it.
Good. Thanks, Lauren.
I'm Nadine, and I'm from the City of Medicine Hat. In total, we have about 1,200 employees, but just within our HR department, there's 25. And so I guess I would like to learn and just make sure that we're on the right track as well with our onboarding, and if there's any tips or anything we can do to improve, definitely adding those in.
Good, thank you.
I'm Sherifa from Abata Works. So in my team, we consist of about 14 people, and I'm here today to remain current in the field of HR.
Thank you.
I'm Alison from Autostar CompuSystems. We've got 32 people in the company, and 13 of those work for me in the IT department. And I just want to refresh, get new hints and tips, but also make sure that on the ongoing engagement that people are staying for the right reasons, not just for the great place to work and the money.
Mm-hmm. Good, thank you.
Okay. I'm Jane from Semis Immigration. We have about 25 staff members right now, and I'm here just to learn a few more strategies on retention.
Thank you.
I'm Janine, and I'm from Cypress County. We have approximately 72 FTE, 72 employees. The HR department is new, I'm it, and so it's always interesting. I've had a recruitment background, so now it's far more of a generalist, so always learning new things.
Thank you.
I am Pam, and I work for Core Association. My main role is I'm a team leader in children's services, but I'm also succession training with my manager of HR, who's on his way. He'll be here in a few minutes. I'm learning, trying to, it can be a big turnover working in rehabilitation, and so I'm looking at how I can maintain and retain more staff members, as well as my role of 30 of us around in children's, but we have about 150 I think about all together, so I'm just kind of learning new roles.
Hi, I'm Marlise. I'm the owner of Tim Hortons here locally in Medicine Hat, and just trying to learn new strategies and understanding of different perspectives here in the community. So,
thanks, Marlise.
I'm Randall. I'm the Human Resource Manager for Tim Hortons for this area, and I'm just here to see what the baseline is in retention and orientation, and to see if there's any new ideas that we can implement.
Thanks, Randall. So I'm not going to pretend that I know all of your businesses because there's so many diverse. I really do know yours, though. I have to say that. I worked for many years for a large not-for-profit in disability services. And believe me, I know how difficult it can be in the not-for-profit sector and in especially that field to not only attract but retain good people. And so some of that experience in my role with the large organization for 27 years, I had an opportunity to recruit, train, and try to retain people. And we used to do orientation sessions all the time. So often, I guess I should have stopped and said, why? We have about 200 employees, and yet we seem to be bringing in about 12 every month. Like, is there a hole in this bucket, you know? And indeed there was. And so I've learned a lot about what to do wrong and what to do right in my work and in my consulting work since then. So thank you for coming, and I hope I'll be able to answer your questions, and I hope we'll be able to work together perhaps to answer some for each other. So, oops, I just went one too far. The workshop objectives today is really to define onboarding, which, you know, it's basically, and to understand the purpose, and then to talk about engaging and following up with the employees. And, you know, the first two pieces, I think I had down completely, and they were really good. What I think was missing was that follow-up piece. You know, so it's kind of like when people get engaged to be married, and they talk to, and they're so excited, and then they have the wedding, and it's so amazing, it's so wonderful, and then I see them about 3 years later in marriage counseling. Because what didn't happen was the follow-up, all those promises people made. And so I'd say, well, tell me about how you met. And some of the most interesting answers were, well, I don't remember, I was drunk, you know. That never bodes well. Some of them were, well, he was so wonderful and she was so beautiful. And then, and sort of like, I applied for this job and I got this great job. Oh my goodness, what happened? So what happens between that moment when the person gets the phone call and they're so excited to come to work for you, and then when they are on their way out the door and it's so sad? You know, and that's about engagement, and that's about follow-up. So I can't help but see the parallels in those as those worlds collide. So onboarding, and this is something we can just read, the purpose of onboarding is to help new hires transition to the roles of the company. And when it works, it can really help alleviate stress and improve the culture of the organization. So it's really a good opportunity to keep refreshing the reasons why people come to work as you bring somebody new on board. If you're feeling good about that, it actually can energize the team that is there because you're busy telling people about what's great about your organization. The other side of that isn't as good, so we won't talk about that too much. So I want to talk about stress and anxiety. How many people here have ever felt anxiety going to a new job? Everybody. Anybody have the worst first job story ever? Anybody think they have the worst first day on their job story? Yes, go ahead, tell us about that.
I don't know about the worst, but it definitely created a lot of anxiety. As I arrived, my boss gave me like a really quick tour. Here's the bathroom, here's the fridge. Yeah. And he goes, okay, I'm gone for the rest of the week. Most of us are, all of us heads of department are gone for the week, so you're on your own, have fun.
Okay, that's good. And did they also give you like a great big policy and procedure manual and said, read this?
No, he told me to find it all on the website.
Oh,
good luck.
Okay, so that was, in my days it was before the website. So how many of us have had the first day where they say, hi, welcome, here's your desk, and here's the policy and procedure manual? Yes. There, now read that today, we'll see you tomorrow. After about the first hour, you're thinking, where's the back, where's the door? How do I get out of here? You know? Well, we told you everything you needed to know. Didn't you read the policy and procedure manual? Well, it's like 17 pounds. I got a back injury just carrying it from the other room. So the other thing that happens when people don't know what it's expected, anxiety rises because cortisol, the stress hormone, is flowing through our bloodstreams. Adrenaline and noradrenaline, people get really upset. How well do you remember things when you're upset? You don't. You ever get into a big argument with your spouse and you don't know what I did not say that. You did so, I have it on my phone. So we sometimes say things when we're upset or don't understand or don't hear things well when we're stressed. And that's perfectly normal. So one of the really great advantages of a good onboarding process is that you get people comfortable and relaxed and they'll remember what you tell them. And that's amazing when that works well. So people will naturally experience anxiety and new jobs create stress, and so we want to fix that. So we want to talk about why we want to worry about employee turnover, and in fact, just to let you know that in the US, organizations spend about $40 billion on onboarding. 40 billion with a B. That's a lot of money on onboarding, but in fact, the turnover costs range between 50 and 200% of annual salary. And if you don't think that we don't have time today, if we were doing a whole day, we'd have you brainstorm about what those costs are. But just give me a couple of ideas of what does it cost money to recruit and train new people? What's involved in that? Anybody? What? Advertising. Orientation.
The actual recruiting of HR people going out there and spending time interviewing and processing.
Interviewing and processing, and yeah, all of that. And by the way, every time you have an employee or a potential employee that you interview and onboard for a short period of time and who leaves unhappily, if you're any kind of an organization that has customers or clients, what have you just lost? Probably a customer or a client, right? If you had a bad experience at I won't pick on anybody, but if you had a bad experience, you probably are not going to go there. I applied for a job there and they didn't even call me back. They told me they would. I'm never shopping there again. I once saved, lots of money when I got annoyed with a big department store. And I finally had to get over it. But boy, I saved a lot of money while I was annoyed with them. So we know that the employer costs, the exit costs, the absence costs, the recruitment costs, the onboarding costs it's very expensive. So not only is it nice for people to do onboarding and it reduces their stress, it improves your bottom line as an organization. Which means you can pay your people more, which is good, especially in the not-for-profit area. So we want to have we want people to come on board and have a realistic expectations about what they need to do. What does your company expect? And we talked about the values of the company. People do need to know about the policies and procedures, but not all in one day. They do need to know where the bathrooms are. And is it okay, can you eat lunch at your desk? Are you allowed to? Where's the lunchroom? What's going on in the neighborhood? If you're recruiting and onboarding people from outside of the community, they may not know where anything is. And so, going outside of your company, maybe making sure they're comfortable in the community. Anybody here moved from elsewhere? I'm sure there must have been people moved from outside. And did you spend I know I moved from Calgary that many years ago, and I thought, what the heck? What is there anything here? I didn't know. So it would have been really helpful to have somebody show me the ropes. And then, of course, the job descriptions. Everybody has those, right? Everybody has them, and they're absolutely include everything and are accurate, right? How many people, put up your hand if you can say yes to that, honestly. Good for you. I know you could, because you're very careful about that. How many people say, yeah, we could probably use a tweak? I know ours, it happens. And if they need a tweak, when you're bringing a new person on, what a great time to take a look at it. Say, wait a minute, you're going to have to do this and this. Oh, well, actually, no, you don't do that anymore. But you need to do this, other related duties. So it's a really good time to give people that really great, straightforward information about what the company expects them to do. And so you want to encourage people to be committed to a project rather than just involved. So, if you are committed, what does that mean? What does that look like? What does a really truly committed employee look like? Can anybody give me an example? Yeah, and how do you know that?
They're smiling, they're happy, they get stuff done,
Yeah.
and they'll work nicely with others.
Yeah. And can everybody think of an example in your organization of somebody like that? Yeah. Okay, and I'm not going to talk about the negatives or the opposite. We just want to focus on what works, and those are the people we want more of. So those are the people you're looking for in your interviews, right? You're saying, did they smile? Are they happy? Did they seem to really want to work here? I know I was very impressed one time when somebody, a young woman came in and she said, we noticed your receptionist is pregnant, so there's probably going to be a mat leave here soon, right? I'd really love to work here. So she's working for us now. She's covering the mat leave. We did have some other candidates, but I thought, my goodness, she really wants to be here. And she's bright enough and forward-thinking enough to actually say, here's an opportunity. I thought, that's the kind of person we need. I want somebody who can recognize what needs to be done. So that's pretty simple. So we want those committed people, and onboarding is a way to start getting that buy-in. So it's a systematic method. You want to hire the very best employees and the best employees for your organization. And we did talk about the cross-generational thing. And I guess I love the idea that we have lots of generations. I love the idea we have lots of personality types. I love the idea that we have diverse workforces. But keep in mind that every person is unique. And they may be a millennial, or a baby boomer, or a EFNJ, or an orange, or a working mother. But they are a person first. And as soon as we categorize people and expect that everything is going to work because, you're a millennial, you must be really good at the computer, right? Well, that's not, we can say, well, maybe, yeah, because you probably are more exposed to that. Of course we want to be aware of that. Or you're an introvert, so we're not going to put you in that role. But really, we need to know each person. And that's a real challenge when you've got lots and lots of people that you're onboarding. So this is where the process really needs to address some of that. And we want to speed up the training process so that it's efficient and effective. Onboarding will help with that, and we want to make sure that people understand what the cultural environment is in the community and what the company expectations are. So these are all the reasons that we do onboarding. So how many people use mentors for onboarding? 1, 2, 3, 4. And so a mentor is somebody who's there, who has time and interest and can be that buddy. In elementary school where you get a little buddy and this is the person going to show you where things are. And that's a wonderful system. So mentorship really can work, but keep in mind these are the elements we want. We want them to be a role model. We want them to be able to advise. We want them to be able to give feedback and assist and be trustworthy. So if you pick somebody who's a mentor who applied for the job and didn't get it, How is that going to work? I mean, it could, but you're going to have to talk about that, right? If you get somebody who's a mentor who's already so busy that they can hardly get their own work done, and you're saying, here you go, now you're going to show this person the ropes. Oh, fine, great, thanks a lot. Or somebody who themselves is just on the edge of just about 1 foot out the door, and they're going to teach the new person all the wrong things. Does that ever happen? You bet it happens. So mentorship is an honor. If I have a few people that I really feel fortunate that I've been able to work with at the early stages of their career, and well, he used to be a young man with lots of hair. Now he's an old guy, bald old guy. And when I see him, he gives me a big hug and says, "My mentor." And I'm so proud of that. And when I see him doing the good work he does, I'm so proud of that. And that relationship that we started 25 years ago kept on for us as friends beyond the mentorship, beyond the job ending. And so, though when you are in that role of mentor, what an honor for you to be there. So maybe convincing or inviting some of your existing good performers to take those mentorship roles, what a compliment. We love the work you're doing. We've got a new person coming in, we would love you to be their example. How engaging is that, not only for the new person, but for the existing person? So it generally takes about 20 weeks for a new person coming on board to start being productive enough to break even for having hired them. But a good onboarding system can shorten that period of time. So it's a profit motive. Having worked in the not-for-profit business for so long, and now I'm a business owner, I've become a capitalist, it's a whole different thing. I really do need to think about bottom lines and how, in a small organization, how do you make things run? And so onboarding, that shortens that time, but not only you get the person functioning well in terms of how the technical skills of the job, making that pot of coffee that's really good that your customers are going to really want to come back for, and also getting along with the other people, because how often you have the best performer technically and they leave because they don't get along with the other people. They don't play nicely, or the other people don't like them for whatever reason, and that happens. So we want the opportunity. Now, I know about relationships. Some of the couples, when I ask about, was it love at first sight? And they'll say, no, I didn't like him at all. My friend invited him to a party. I didn't like him at all, but he kind of grew on me after I got to know him. And then my friends told me how great he was, and okay, then I kind of really liked him. But that happens. So sometimes the first impressions are, that's it, it's over. And sometimes the first impressions don't necessarily have to follow through. You can build that first impression and help that social environment along. So it's not just the first moment, it's going to be the first 6 months of a new employee. It doesn't just, okay, we've oriented you, thank you very much, now get to work. So you want to make those employees feel welcome. So after that hiring, and you get to make that phone call. How many people love to make that phone call? You've gotten the job. Isn't that great? Yeah. As opposed to the one, I'm sorry to tell you that you were a really good kid. No, but you've gotten the job. They're so excited. So what you want to do is really send them some information right away. And now with the internet, we can do it. You don't even have to put a stamp on an envelope. You can send them the information, and you can choose a mentor. You can prepare for that first day. You come in and you're not going to get okay, well, this is your desk, but we have to clean this other person's stuff out of here first. And yeah, we're going to paint this office sometime. No, have it all ready. People, if they have an office or a workspace or even just a corporate badge or whatever business, whatever you're going to have for them, and then have people meet that person. Whoever you can reasonably bring in to meet this person, and let them know that this is the beginning of a working relationship. And it's difficult where you might have different shifts and you might have large numbers of people. So within your organization, you find what works best. And the idea, and this is pretty much standard, is that have somebody take the person for lunch. There you are, you're all by yourself, and you brought your little lunch. No, you don't need your lunch. And you might even tell them the first day, be prepared to go out for lunch, so that they don't make a lunch appointment with somebody else that first day. So let them know what's going to happen. And even if it's one person, even if just the manager, and if it can be the manager who takes them for lunch, that's the best. What kind of a message, or the CEO of the company? You were talking about WestJet. One of the most impressive things I ever saw on a flight from WestJet, there had been some big event in Vancouver, and we were flying back, and the president, or the CEO, I guess, of WestJet was on the flight. He got up and introduced himself, and during the delivery of the juice and pop, he served us. That just blew me away. This was a guy who was the CEO, and he got in there with his team and did the work. So you, as the manager or the supervisor, if you can actually make that direct connection with that person and say, I'm really glad you're here. That's it, and if not, then whoever can do that in your organization. Is that feasible? Will that work for you? Yeah? Okay. Sure.
For you. How do you see this working in a virtual world? So for example, where I work, I have my clients there, they have their employees, but the team that I belong to is virtual in nature. So how do you see onboarding working in that type of an environment?
Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to tell you the way I think you do it is the way I communicate with my grandkids who live in Victoria. We use FaceTime. We FaceTime. So I have my little granddaughter who's 3, and she's the cutest 3-year-old in the world, just saying. If you have any 3-year-olds, I'm sure they're the second cutest. So I try and get out there and see them in person. Do you ever get to meet people in person, or is it all virtual?
Mostly virtual.
Mostly virtual. So what we do is we do this screen thing. So, you know, and sometimes I'll pick up my phone and there'll be a little smoochy face right there. And it's not the same as a real hug, but it's darn close because we can see each other's expressions, we can talk to each other, we can, well, I don't email with my grandkids, we still send things in the mail, because I kind of still like so you can actually send things in the mail so people get physical stuff. It's a really good question because I've done some counseling virtually, and it works very well. I had some training about that, so what it is, they taught us how to look into here in the computer instead of at the eyes of the person on the screen, so it looks like you're actually looking in their eyes. Kind of tricky. It doesn't work with grandkids. Yes?
As I mentioned, we're kind of spread out all over Southern Alberta. My team, my boss is in Lethbridge. I have one cohort here in Medicine Hat, and the rest of us are spread out all the way up to Okotoks now. We've just expanded. We have a meeting every single Friday morning, and everybody pulls out their laptops, turns on their webcams, and it's WebEx is the program that we use, and we have a conference call for 45 minutes every Friday morning just to touch base. So we spend the first few minutes on recognizing each other. You know, this person helped me with this week. We connect via email, we connect via telephone, and we actually have kind of like an MSN Messenger program, Microsoft Link, that we can instant message with each other. We can share screens, which I love when I'm trying to do something new and trying to figure it out, is the person will go, share your screen with me. Okay, do you see that thing over there on the left? You need to click on that. Okay, drop that down. Oh, well, that's your problem. You need to go back 2 screens and fix this. So we use technology all the time to connect because nobody that does the same job as me works in my office. The closest I have is across this city, but my boss is out in Lethbridge, and I will connect with her all the time. I have credit coaches I work with all the way from Vancouver to Toronto, and that's what we do is we use technology to connect. And I'll be honest, as an employee, I've been here since January. I feel like I'm connected with the people I'm working with, even though it's just through technology and it's not face-to-face. I still feel like I know these people and like I'm connecting with them, even if I can't meet them. So it does work.
Thank you. That's really great, and I'm amazed because when this long distance technology was first in its infancy, I was teaching a course at the college, and I had one student in Brooks, and we had the camera and all of it, and this person was in slow-mo, and it was so terrible, and I remember thinking, this is never gonna work. This is the craziest thing. How do they expect this to work? But then I have to remember the first time somebody offered me a computer from my office, I said, now what would I ever do with that? You know, that's how old I am. So the understanding that we can move from these systems where we have face-to-face to this virtual is, as a matter of fact, there are some people who prefer that, who are not really all that comfortable in that real face-to-face. And I think that's going to be more and more prevalent as, as people do, spend a lot of their times in their relationships on the screen. So, you ever run into a Facebook friend and you don't say hi because you actually see them but you don't actually want to talk to them? Ever happen? I hope not, but it does sometimes. Okay, so moving on, we want to talk about checklists. It's important to have a checklist. How many people take a grocery list to the grocery store when you shop? Good for you. And if you don't, what happens? What do you buy? Everything, right? And what do you forget? What you went for, exactly. So as much as I'm not really a checklist kind of person, at heart, I have become a checklist kind of person because there's so many things to remember. So it's important, make a checklist. So what you want to do is to have the checklist right from you are hired and the pre-arrival and everything that's on that list to that first day, the first week, the first month, and right to the end of the probationary period or the qualifying period, and then ongoing, that checklist. And they can be lengthy, and I'm not going to say this is the one you use because every team is unique and different, and everybody needs to have their own checklist, but there are key elements that you want to make sure are on that checklist. So you want to make sure. Now, it's interesting. I transported some of these slides from another presentation. When I proofed this, I saw that it said, greet and introduce the employee. And I couldn't change that great to greet. So I thought it must mean that you've got a great employee. So you have a great employee, and you're going to say great, and then you're going to introduce them to everybody else. And then you're going to greet them and say you're great. And so you want to tour the office if you have an office, or tour your system if it's a virtual system. And you want to set schedules and expectations. You've been doing this for a long time, but this person doesn't know. And think about it. I'll just give you an example. I always thought that sort of the benchmark rule of thumb for returning, well, I'll ask you, how quickly do you expect a response from an email?
Depends what it is. And it depends on the subject.
Okay.
Or if it's got a flag.
Okay, no flag, just a general email. What would you expect within your company? Within 24 hours. Okay, for you? How soon?
It would depend on what it is. If it's to the team, it's within half a day.
Within half a day? So within 24 hours, half a day? Anybody else? I just did some training with a company and they said within 15 minutes. Now imagine and you know what? I'm one of these people. If I sent you an email or and I haven't heard back, by the end of the day, I'm within my team. Although it's funny, I can just walk down the hall and say, hi, did you get my email? So it's kind of funny, but sometimes we do emails because we're busy. But imagine if you're the person who thinks it's okay, 24 hours, and you work for a company who says 3 hours. Are you going to be in trouble? Maybe, but you didn't know.
You have to be on the same page.
You have to be on the same page. And the expectation, we start here at 8:30. Well, for some companies, that means we start here at 8:15. And if you show up at 8:30, everybody's going to say you're late. Anybody have that happen? So what is it? Is it 8:30 or is it 8:15? Well, it's 8:30, but you better be here by 8:15. And we leave here at 4 o'clock. But in fact, if you're walking out the door at 4 o'clock, people are going to give you that, must be nice to be leaving in the middle of the afternoon. This is what you call the workplace culture. And, people need to know what that expectation is. You might have a uniform. I know your company has uniforms, right? You have expectations. Does everybody look exactly uniform in the uniform? No, there are lots of variations on what you can do with a uniform. So what is the expectation? Do you have to iron the pleats into the pants, or do you have to, is your name tag, whatever? So those expectations, it can be the most obvious things that we overlook. So it's really just a matter of giving people that information in a very clear-cut way. So you want to greet them, you want to give them the tour, and you want to plan to take lunch, you want to set schedules and expectations, you want to explain the resources, and then you want to have an orientation session. How many people have orientation sessions? Most people? Formal, informal? So anybody have no formal? Nothing? So whatever that is. Now, the company that I worked for, the organization, we have these great orientation sessions, we have a video, we have handouts, we have policy and procedure. And I would run into, and we had them sign everything off. And then I'd run into somebody and they'd say, oh, I was at your orientation session, but I don't really remember anything. I think, how could you not remember? Why didn't they remember? too much information, too stressful, too much information, too fast. And we thought it was great because we heard it like every month, obviously. So we thought it was pretty great. So you really want to make sure. Now, with millennials, I understand. Anybody here a millennial? The people born between 1980 and 1995? Okay. So is it true that you would prefer to have information in smaller chunks and more electronically and more at your own pace? Is that true for you two who are millennials? Or for you? Yeah? Okay. Anybody here that's a baby boomer? Okay. Baby boomers, how do you like to get your information?
All up front and then I can go through it.
Right. I like that big policy and procedure manual. I want it. I want to know where it is. I want to have it. I don't want it online. I want the paper. Right? Okay. Anybody who's not, who's the Gen, what do we have there? Gen X's. Who's it? Gen X's. How do you like your information?
Well, I'd probably look similar to a baby boomer.
Yeah.
All the information
Yeah. Yeah, so it really depends. And then there are some Gen Xers who like it all, because it depends on what your family. I grew up in the 60s, but, my values were from the 50s because, my music was from the 40s. That's how it worked. You're always a little bit, So let's make sure that we do have some kind of an orientation that is going to work for the style of the person. And we may have to be a little flexible on that and give people some options. So every successful program demands preparation, and onboarding is no exception. So you need to make sure that everybody involved in the onboarding understands what's expected of them. And it shouldn't just be, oh, well, we got a new person coming, so, make sure you say hi. It actually means planning and making it important. So I want you to write down on a piece of paper in your organization, how important is onboarding? How do you think your general staff would see onboarding in terms of priority? Is 10 is it's a top priority, needs all our care and attention, and 0 is, well, it's not such a big deal. Just write down the number. Just take a minute and just write down what you think your organization, how it values it, the whole onboarding thing. Okay? How many people have that it's at 10? Okay? How many people have that it's about between 5 and 10? Okay, anybody less than 5? Okay, good. So we all know it's important. So it's just how important is it? But there weren't too many people that had 10, just 1 or 2. Okay. So make sure everyone knows, oh, I love this. You see how I've got professionalism and then the slide is wonky? Yeah. It's great. I love it. I did fix that. I did fix it, but it didn't stay fixed. I guess I would have had to press save changes. Yeah. Okay, so anyway, make sure everyone knows the new hire is coming. Choose someone to greet the new employee. HR should have the paperwork done in advance, and mostly HR does, right? Have paperwork done in advance? How many people don't have actual HR departments or people dedicated? Any of those? No, so that's good. And designate a mentor ahead of time. So that's all important. Now, the HR department, are you giving all the information an employee needs? What kind of information are you giving them?
What they're going to need for the first day.
What they're going to need? Mm-hmm. Yeah. What other kinds of things, Aaron?
For me, we have a schedule
Mm-hmm.
for them,
Mm-hmm.
a tentative schedule for them,
Mm-hmm.
for they'll come in, they'll
Mm-hmm.
work with this,
Mm-hmm.
and then their first couple days of shifts, they'll
Mm-hmm.
have that schedule ready to go for them.
Okay. And do they know all about the company benefits and everything they're going to get as an employee of the company?
For me, normally I will talk to them about that in the interviewing process.
Okay.
So they know
Okay.
ahead of time kind of what kind of
Okay.
benefits we offer as
Right.
an association.
And in their package that they would have all that information.
We split it up
Mm-hmm.
because we have a workshop that they come in and they will do that and get more detailed.
Get more detail. Okay.
Yep.
Anything else that should be that we've missed when you're talking about what people need? Yes.
I think that designate a mentor ahead of time.
Yes.
I think that needs to be done more often.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we wait until they get there and then pick.
Right.
I think if we designate someone ahead of time,
Yeah.
it gives that mentor time to prepare.
Absolutely. It's just not sort of, oh, who happens to be around today? Everybody else is hiding in the bathroom because they know that new person's coming. They don't want anybody else to mentor. No, it shouldn't be like that. So you want to clarify the goals, the expectations, and the culture. We talked a lot. What is the culture of your organization? What do you have to do to fit here? Over the years, we've seen worked with many people and put them into different jobs. I once had a gentleman who had difficulty on his workplace because of the lunch he brought, that his coworkers didn't like his lunch. And interestingly, and that was about 25 years ago, interestingly enough, I recently had a client who had the same issue. I thought, wow, people are still complaining about other people's food after all these years. Isn't that strange, the things people pick on? So it's important to know, though, if you, I always like to make microwave popcorn at work. Other people hated it. No, don't make me smell that microwave popcorn. I need to know that perfume. Can I wear perfume? Where do the smokers go? What happens if, what happens, I've got, if you're a single parent and you've got kids that might call you, is that okay? What does that look like? No cell phones allowed. Well, if you're the only person for your child, how are you going to accommodate that? So again, talking about those personal issues that might have an impact early in the game, not that you're calling the person into the office, well, we notice you're on your cell phone all the time. Well, actually, I'm not. Actually, I do carry it, though, because, so those are things that are important. Those expectations. So you want to make sure, we talked about this already, about the mentor. Is the employee qualified to teach somebody? Not that they just are 2 feet in a heartbeat, but in fact, are they good at their job? Are they good enough? And are they a good teacher? How many people here are really awesome at what they do? I'm sure there's lots of you. How many people want to get up here and tell us how awesome you are? Not everybody, right? You might be really great at it, but you may not want to get up and tell somebody else how to do that. And quality is being that role model, so important. Oops, I went too far. So you want to train tasks, for sure. You want to train communications. We talked about that. What are the communication styles? And you want to provide feedback. How many people here like to give feedback? Yes? How many people really don't like it? Anybody not like it? What happens if it's not good feedback? How do you do that? Okay, exactly, good answer. So the feedback shouldn't sound like criticism. Because we know in marriage counseling, one of the 4 things that destroys marriage is, first one is criticism, right? And then the next one is defensiveness. So you have somebody who's critical and the person, well, how was I supposed to know that? And then that moves on to the next one, which is contempt. Well, fine, you're just a rotten employee and you're just a rotten employer. And the 4th one, which is called stonewalling in marriage, which is I'm sleeping on the couch, but in the workplace is called I'm out of here. So those 4 things. So that whole business of feedback that's provided in a constructive, I know we talk about constructive way. Is there another word for it? I guess honest, straightforward, helpful, valuing, respectful. Because it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Another word is genuine.
Genuine, exactly. So we want...
I was going to add, Pam, if you don't mind.
Sure.
We've also found over the years that it's important to have a piece on health and safety in your conversation on the first day. And that health and safety could just be informing the employees that they have a right to inform you if there's any hazards. A great example might be people standing on chairs with rollers when they're trying to reach above or a higher area than they can reach, and the hazard that causes. And so to encourage people to start talking about safety and what does it mean. And then that will quite often lead to a more open relationship when people get looking at workplace stress.
Absolutely.
So just an idea.
Very good point, and I didn't specifically spell that out because I'm thinking policy and procedure manuals. In most organizations, you have a big health and safety section, and that's important, yeah.
We do that on our 3rd day of orientation.
Yeah.
Our whole day is, we have our 2 days of orientation, and then our 3rd day is about safety and all of that stuff. So yeah, you're right, it's very important.
Very important. Good. So because of in the interest of time, because I'm getting to my last 10 minutes, I'm going to just slide over this. Am I okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. So the case study here, and it's not really. Sorry, I just have to find the detail of it. So the Time Clock Corporation attempted a new mentoring program to reduce 75% turnover rate. 75% turnover rate, woo. So the goal was to increase productivity and decrease turnover by 50%. The first review of the program showed a 15% reduction in turnover. While an improvement, the numbers show a need for more improvement, and a survey revealed that many mentors had little time to spend with the new hires due to the demands of their own jobs. So yeah, they had mentors, but the mentors were not being effective. So when you look at any of the elements of your onboarding, you need to get the data, back to Janet's point about getting the data, is it working or not? Because just because you do it doesn't mean, just because you think you're doing it doesn't mean it's effective. So again, mentors really needed to spend more time with those new hires. So the onboarding checklist, we talked about that already. So it's really create your own checklist. And I went Googling to find onboarding checklists, and some of them were so long and exhaustive that they gave me a headache. So I think you really have to find one that works for you and that is not so daunting that the people who are going to do it say, oh, God, please don't make me have a checklist. Please don't make me orient a new employee because I have to go. It has to, so keep it simple. Simple, what are the key elements, but the detail that you need in terms of those tasks that actually have to be completed. So the pre-arrival, you're going to have the welcome packet, the prepare the work area, provide a contact, schedule the onboarding process, inform others, and have that first week checklist. So this is just kind of a review of what we've just talked about. And then, again, the review is that they're going to be arrived, the great employee is going to be welcomed. The HR tasks are going to be done by the HR department, the paperwork, letting them know everything about the signing up for things, the policies and procedures, how they access them in a way that's meaningful for them and that isn't just today. At the end of the day, we're taking away the manual and you'll never see it again. The idea is to introduce them to the policy and procedure manual. Nowadays, most of them are online for people, and let them know how they use it and how they can refer to it and that it's there for them. And really the orientation to the manual, not memorize it, just understand that it's there and how it works. And again, their schedule, like you said, Erin, exactly what is it they're expected to do so that they don't wander around the first few days, as was your experience, and what the heck am I supposed to be doing here? And then showing them, introduce them to the different teams. One great thing that I did when I first started with an organization is it was a big organization, and they had me spend one day with each different department, even though I wasn't working at that department. So by the time I was finished, I really knew the organization, and I knew a lot of people, and I felt quite welcomed there. And then I understood, what sales did, or what HR did, and what the manufacturing, you've got all the different pieces, and it makes sense to you. Now I see what it's like. So the first week, again, reviewing what the job is, the feedback, the training, including people, making them feel welcome, introductions, housekeeping. So we need to be not only sensitive to generations and to gender, and to culture, ethnicity, personality type, religious differences. We've got a very diverse workplace. And we have to be, if we can be mindful and respectful of each other, that goes a long, long way. And again, some of the housekeeping things, how are things done? It can be the littlest thing like, who makes the coffee? What happens when you run out of toilet paper? I don't know, these might be little things, but if you work someplace and you're out of toilet paper, I tell you, you've got a paperwork issue. So, so anyway. So the first month you want to clarify, to continue to clarify those roles and expectations. You want to meet weekly, to give that feedback and to make sure, and make sure the person feels comfortable enough that it's two-way communication. Enroll, if necessary, for benefits, and that some of it they may not be eligible for the first little while, so they have to wait a little bit. Sometimes you don't get your business card right away because you want to make sure you're going to stay around before we spend the money. But boy, what a powerful message when you get there the first day and your business cards are there. Maybe it's worth the $50 to print those business cards to send that message. I think I need to change that about my organization. I'm always a little scared about printing the business cards, but check the training to make sure that it's all been completed and that you want to schedule a 30-day evaluation. And those key pieces, what are the most important things for the person to know? They're not going to know everything, so when you set this up, you need to know that the really important things are getting through and that you know they've gotten through. And health and safety certainly can be one of those things, especially if you're serving other people. You know, what happens if you have an accident because nobody told you whatever it was and you didn't know? So engaging program. I had to laugh at this slide about how many times this slide used the word engagement. Basically, the idea is you want to be there, you love it, you really want people to love it as well. So getting off on the right track, trust and communication. There are two pillars in any relationship. The first one is trust, the second one is commitment. Trust and commitment. If you have those two pillars, the relationship can build. What happens if there's no trust? Pointless. It's pointless. What happens if there's no commitment? Pointless. It's pointless. You know, well, why am I going to bother to train you? You're not staying around here anyway. You know? Well, why should I trust you? You might close. Those are the two pillars of any relationship. Don't cram in too much information. Make a connection and build a relationship. Yes, we're here. We want to be here. This is great. Now, does employee engagement look like this with every person? No. You can have some of the most engaged employees who do not do this, who will be very quiet. They're engaged completely, but they're more introverted. So don't say, just because somebody isn't, doing this thing, that they're not engaged. Understand them. Come to understand how they are engaged and let them tell you how they're engaged. And then, so maybe when that new person's coming on board, how are you going to match somebody? Are you going to match this person with the quiet person who's maybe culturally not there or personality? No, because this person's going to be frustrated. I can't get him engaged. Well, yeah, he's engaged. He just doesn't look like you when he's engaged. So that's a really important element. So again, human resources, we want to provide the package, help with the paperwork, company policies, explain the benefits, provide a tour. Again, the tour might be by the manager, it may be by HR, but these are all the making sure that everybody has what they need. Prepare the workstation. Managers, prepare the workstations, schedule the training, explain roles and expectations, meet frequently, and assign tasks to new hires. What happens if the manager's not involved in this? It's really hard for the manager. The manager is ultimately responsible. Now, sometimes when you've got a great big team, the manager cannot do this with everybody. If you're the person who manages the managers, then whoever that directs, so when I say managers, I guess the person who supervises that person. They may not have the title manager, but they're the direct report. It's the person who directly is going to be signing off on that performance of that individual. But if it is a big organization and the manager or the CEO connects with that employee, what does that mean to the employee?
It speaks volumes.
It does, absolutely. Engaged employees enjoy their work, they work towards the goal, and they do more than the minimum. We've talked about that. And I'm running out of time, so I'm just going to quickly. Do not miss this. Just because it's at the end, I don't want to skip over it too quickly. Follow-up is so important. Following up with new employees, you need to see if everything's working and what changes do you need to make. You want to check in on the goals and progress, discuss the onboarding, how is it going, any other help that the person needs. And the follow-up with the mentor, you want to follow up that the expectations are understood. You want to follow up that the relationships are starting to be built, that the person is included, that the work is being done, and that the feedback loop is intact. So like anything, the first step, the first step is good, the next step is good, but if you don't do that follow-up loop, you can find that the system will break down and you never knew it did. So we talked about setting schedules, and so I won't talk anymore about that. People know how to do that, and we'll flip through that case study. So that's the presentation on onboarding. Are there any, do you want questions now? Or?
Please, yeah.
Yeah.
See if there's any questions.
Any questions? I'm going to ask a question if there are no questions. Is there anything here that is new to you? Probably not, nothing new, right?
Not new, but something I think that me and my role need to do more of is the follow-ups.
Right.
Right, because we have a staff team that comes in, we do the 3-day orientation, we do things, and we expect the direct supervisors to follow up. But I think it would be more of if we had a one person following up with the staff and having that ongoing feedback. I think we might. So if there's a problem right away, we can fix it instead of waiting to hear about it when they exit.
That's right. Thank you. Yeah, that's good. So I don't think this is anything new to anybody who works in HR or works with people. I know the Canada Food Guide really well, and I still ate things with sugar and fat. So we all know what we're supposed to do. It's just sometimes the challenge is, how do we make that happen when life is busy and we suddenly we've got to replace somebody we didn't really plan for it. So I guess it's a matter of moving it on the importance list. Yes?
In the example that you gave, you said that all the mentors were too busy. What would you recommend? So say I look at my team and everybody I have that can possibly mentor this new person is so overworked, there's no way they're going to be able to do it. What do I do?
Good question. Okay, so I have an answer for that, but does anybody else? I just sort of invite the group to answer that. Anybody have that experience?
We just move work around. So in IT, we move different projects allocation and then change like the agile ranking of their work. And their work hours dropping from 5 to 3 to give time.
So you change things around so that there's more time. Yeah. And I think one of the, as difficult as it is, have you ever been walking and you got a pebble in your shoe? And so you say, I'd love to stop and take this pebble out of my shoe, but I don't have time. So I think having that conversation with your team, probably beforehand, to say, yeah, we've got this pebble in our shoe. That is, we need to stop and bring on a new person. And if we don't do it well, we're going to be doing it again and again and again. So as a group, what could we shift to make someone, to free someone to do that? And I think that's probably, or do we need to add some hours somewhere? But it's like most important things, if you don't take care of them. Well, I'll give you an example, and then I'll end. Marriage counseling. I say to people, do you have time for a 20-minute conversation with your partner every day? You're married, right? Do you have time for a 20-minute, no interruptions, no cell phones, no kids, 20 minutes? And everybody says yes, right? No, they don't. You're married, but you don't have time for 20 minutes? Now, again, these are people that are in marriage counseling. These are not the people that are happily married. So what do you think? You don't have time for 20 minutes. Okay, do you have time for a date night once a week or once a month? Can you afford it? No, we can't afford it. Can't afford a babysitter. How much are babysitters? $15 an hour? I don't know. I haven't got little kids anymore. You know how much divorce lawyers are? Like $450 an hour. So when you think about it, think about replacing that employee at 100% of their salary. Or think about, maybe we need to bring on a temp for a few days and download. Is anybody doing their own photocopying here? Is anybody doing something that's not a priority? Can we shift things around? Because in the end, you either pay me now or pay me later. But if you can make this an important task for your team and make sure that they understand how important it is. And it's so funny that when we're interviewing somebody for those, how many people interview? Okay, and you're trying to put your best foot forward, right? It's like when you're going on a date, right? If everybody would just act like they're going on a date, if we would just treat our new employees the way we do when we first interview them, we probably would do a lot better with our retention. Any more questions? No? Well, thank you very much. I really enjoyed presenting to you today.